Hello, everyone, and welcome to the EVN Disrupt podcast. My name is Najdat Zaturyan. I'm the editor of the creative tech section here at EVN Report. In this episode, we sat down with Gevorg Poghosyan, the CEO of Impact Hub Yerevan, to discuss VIA Fund, an impact investment fund managed by Impact Hub. Gevorg breaks down what impact investing is and how social enterprises differ from traditional businesses, highlighting their potential for scaling and creating positive change. We also dove into Impact Hub's plans to expand their centers across Armenia. Thank you for listening. Gevorg, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for your invitation.
Let's start off by speaking with a little bit about Impact Hub. I think a lot of our audience might be already familiar with it, but for those who don't know, tell us what Impact Hub is.
Sure. I'm happy to talk about Impact Hub and our operations. Actually, it was founded in 2014, but it started its operations like in 2016. The main idea is to develop and strengthen the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship in Armenia. So the whole name of the Impact Hub would be Impact Hub Armenia Social Innovation Development Foundation, and we have two different directions. First of all, we run a community of change makers, as we call them, and those are people who are somehow bringing positive impact into the Armenian reality. And we have a beautiful building with backyard with a lot of facilities which we are happy to share with our members, and the main idea is to provide a kind of co-working space to those change makers, but we do not call ourselves co-working space because we are more a community and we do not provide any short-term, membership. We are mostly interested in bringing long-term members and people into the community. So this is our first direction, but the second is the programs that we run is mostly focused on creating new social enterprises and supporting those who are already operating. So we have incubation programs in agriculture, we have in creative industries, we have for social enterprises who are focusing the challenges of different vulnerable groups, and also we have very often short incubation projects in tourism, and also we have had a very big and long-term program on tourism development. Other than this, we are running several donor programs. For example, Collaborate for Impact, which is a program we are doing together with the European Venture Philanthropy Association, and it is funded by the EU. The main idea is to accelerate those social enterprises who are already operational and to help them to model and to design their scaling plan. And also we have created an impact investment fund within this project, which is the VIA Fund. And the idea of VIA Fund is to be available and to provide access to only social enterprises, because we know that the business investments and business, funding opportunities are quite alternate and different activities are happening, but nothing that is focused on social enterprises. So VIA Fund will be only focused on social enterprises, and what we want to do is to kind of bring them from grants to business investments. And we have a plan of step-by-step activities how we want to do that. And the first step is providing them blending funding, which is part grant and part refundable money.
What does that mean, refundable money?
Money that they need to refund, to pay back without an interest rate. So it's like non-interest loans. Yep. And after that, we will introduce some already interest loans, and then we will be more working with equity funding, venture funding. Maybe. So meaning that we want to change their mindset and also make the players in the ecosystem ready to absorb and get investments. Because nowadays social enterprises, they are not ready to get investments just as a business, because though they run their businesses, they are competing with traditional businesses, but even the legal form of them is mostly non-profit organizations, which means they cannot, attract any investments or talk about equity investment, etc.
So let's start, just before we dive deeper, let's start with just defining what an impact investment or a social enterprise is.
I think a lot of people, different
a lot of people, I think, don't know what the difference between a social enterprise and a non-profit or a regular businesses. So can you start by defining
First of all, social enterprise is, by its operations, is just a business, just a form of an entrepreneurship. But what is different from traditional business is their purpose. They are running their business model to solve any social problem or issue. Social, it can be environmental, it can be cultural, but they need to be focused on solving that issue.
But they are a business. They're an
But they are a
LLC.
business. So it's a mixture of doing a business to solve or address a societal, problem or issue. It can be community building, it can be different vulnerable groups, like it can be cultural, it can be environmental, recycling, reusing, whatever.
What's an example of like a big social enterprise that everybody would know the name of, but we didn't think of it as a social enterprise?
I would mention one from Armenia. It's Aragag Bakery in Gyumri.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone who has at least once visited Gyumri, they have had a wonderful coffee and croissant in Aragag. And Aragag is a fully social enterprise. So Aragag was established for those youngsters who were in the rehabilitation center of Emily Aragag. They can be either with autism or with Down syndrome, etc. But after getting some skills of cooking, making coffee, etc., they couldn't find any job opportunities. So Aragag Bakery was created just for them to work there. And now 17 youngsters or their families are working there. Mm-hmm. And what is more important about their impact is now the overall mindset around disability has been really changing in Gyumri. And a lot of families who had, children or family members with different disabilities, they were mostly looking at them with people who do not have, any future, they cannot be financially sustainable, they should stay home, etc. Now they see that it's completely different because these guys in Aragag, they are so wonderful. They communicate, they work, they provide the best coffee and the best croissant in Gyumri. That is not a topic for discussion. Yeah. And even having with very clear communication disabilities, they still do really good communication with their clients. So this is
I highly recommend anyone visiting Gyumri to definitely go to Aragag. It's a very, very special place.
Very special.
Okay, so let's talk about from an impact investing perspective. First, what does that mean?
Impact investing is really a very broad kind of definition, because when we talk about impact investment, we can talk about investments that have impact and also impact investments that are done for impact. So what we focus on is investment for impact, which means that we are targeting those startups or those businesses that are working for that impact. As I already said, their main purpose should be this impact. But impact investing is quite general, because whenever you invest in a startup, in a business which in terms of their operations also have some positive impact, they shouldn't be focused only on impact. They can be a traditional business, but they bring some positive impact as the result of their operations. This is also a part of the impact investment. For example, when we are talking about energy efficiency investments, because there are very many funds that are focused on energy efficiency, and it's not mandatory for those investees to be social enterprise. They can be a business which invests in energy efficiency. So this is quite a broad definition for saying whenever you invest and there is a positive impact, then this is part of the impact investing ecosystem.
So from the perspective of an investor and the social enterprise, are there different expectations when an impact investor is making an investment in a social enterprise? Even from a legal perspective, often corporations have fiduciary responsibilities to maximize the returns that they make for their investors and shareholders. Is there a different legal structure when it comes to social enterprises, or is it the same thing? There's just an understanding between the investor and the
that's just the same. No difference. Actually, we would really like to see some incentives that would somehow promote at least impact investments within our legal framework in Armenia, but there is none.
What would be something that would promote it from a legal framework perspective?
I think at least to allow corporates who are impact investing to decrease these investments from their profit tax. And many countries practice this, but in Armenia you can decrease only 0.25% of your revenue with different, impact investment, or at least
so it almost be
donations,
kind of
etc.
a donation where it's a
write-off. Yes. First of all, there is no definition to somehow define that it's not donation, it's an impact investment. And secondly, it is not anyhow promoted, or businesses do not benefit from anything when they do impact investments.
Right. Okay, let's speak about Via Fund. Does Via Fund operate kind of like a traditional venture fund, but just focus on social enterprises?
No, it's not, because VIA Fund now is run by Impact Hub Yerevan, and Impact Hub Yerevan is a foundation, and we are not allowed to provide any, equity funding or just like traditional venture funding, etc. So what we now do, as I already said, for the first phase of the funding, we are just providing the social enterprises funding that is partly grant and partly non-interest loan. This is the first round. We are now investing. We are right now discussing investments with 5 social enterprises. And after that, maybe in a few months, we will open the fund for any social enterprise who is interested in getting this funding, that they can apply. In upcoming 2-3 years, we plan that we will be establishing a formal investment fund, and it will become kind of a spin-off from Impact Hub Yerevan. And then it can be already working as a traditional fund, providing interest loans, providing equity funding, and also being able to give financial returns to the investors. Right now, what we do, we are mostly targeting philanthropes and philanthropic, foundations, organizations, because mostly they are in line with the goals we want to reach. When we will be working already with financial returns, then we will be able to approach also investors like traditional investors or angel investors. But in parallel, what we do now, we are trying to activate the ecosystem here. And for example, we are having this Impact for Breakfast sessions. Once in every quarter, we are having a meeting with different players of the ecosystem. It can be, venture funds, equity funds. It can be international organization representatives or angel investors themselves. And we are brainstorming with them how important, or whether it's important or not, to be also impact investing, not only investing, but also being very much focused on what impact your investment is bringing, because impact is not always positive. Sometimes investors, they don't look at their investees from the impact perspective. And we are right now just building our network, trying to talk about this topic to mainstream impact investing in general in Armenia. And whenever we'll be ready to act as traditional investment fund, we will be already trying to fundraise from these investors as well.
So the current fund you guys have raised from donors, essentially.
Yes.
And you're the ones that are allocating the capital to the projects. You make those decisions.
The decisions are made by the investors themselves. I will explain the system. And the first kind of fund we have got is from EU. Mm-hmm. It's 300,000 euros, which we can use only as grants. And in parallel, we are fundraising from philanthropic organizations, private philanthropes or investors who are now at this stage interested. And we have already raised around 100,000. And the part we are giving as a non-interest loan, it comes from these fundraised, investments. And the grant money comes from the EU fund we have. And what we do, we have created an investment committee that consists of these, private investors who have already joined our fund, and they are the ones who make the decisions. But we have a very tough and, long due diligence process. They provide, the social enterprises who have applied for the funding, they provide a lot of documentation. They provide, very clear reports about their impact. We help them with their impact metrics, impact measurement, because this is, again, one of the components of social enterprises that is quite weak in Armenia, because impact is there, but they do not, measure it, they do not report it. And we want to see that the social enterprises, they really have proper impact reporting system in place. Because of this lack of the reporting and the measurement, there is also a lot of, lack of trust for these social enterprises, because in the society and in business world, mostly a lot of people, they are quite skeptic about social enterprises and the impact sector in general.
Is that because they don't see it as effective as just
because they
businesses?
don't see numbers?
Because
business people, they like numbers and they don't see these numbers, because the social enterprises are more focused on impact in reality, but they don't measure it, they don't report it, and they didn't think that it is this important. But now they understand how important it is.
They're moving towards a more traditional business structure. Interesting. You mentioned ecosystem a few times. Who are the stakeholders in the impact investing ecosystem other than the social enterprises and the funds such as VIA? Who else is involved in making
When we
it
talk
a-
about ecosystem, which is, very vague, maybe a word or definition, I understand it quite like wide, because for me, ecosystem is also includes the relevant, public authorities that are responsible for somehow creating this ecosystem being active. It's also the stakeholders of all those social enterprises for whom, these enterprises are working. It's also the all the organizations that have any type of program that supports them.
Universities.
Of course, it's universities, it's international financial institutions, but also donor institutions. So it's a mixture of everyone and every organization that is somehow connected to the impact
Got it.
ecosystem. Again, I need to say that word.
Better word. Let's talk about some of the projects that you guys have funded already. Tell us what they're working on.
I can say those who we are now discussing, finalizing the investment process. One of them is AREGAC, as I already mentioned. The other one is HDIF, Homeland Development Initiative Foundation, and they are also doing an amazing work. They work with different groups of women in rural areas in Armenia who create different type of products, and they help them to sell these products mostly outside of Armenia. And right now they are working with more than 230 women, which is amazing. And they are exporting to countries like Canada, Germany, Australia, UK, like around the world. And this is like really good to see how these products that are produced in very small communities in Armenia are being gathered together and exported outside Armenia. Another example would be Source Foundation. Source Foundation, they are creating special equipments and furniture for children with disabilities. And their main kind of business model is that they sell all this equipment and furniture, but also they work with huge number of different children with disabilities and help them to develop their, muscles and their physical capabilities, etc. Another social enterprise we are working with is Zarman. So Zarman is producing different toys. Mostly these are educational toys that doesn't include any kind of chemicals, or they cannot harm anyhow children, etc. But their impact is mostly that all the revenue comes from these sales of these toys goes to the Children's Development Center, and their name Zarman comes from the Zargatsman Mankakan, and Zarman is also kind of like coming from Zarmank.
Right. In terms of like trends that you're seeing from the companies that are applying to you guys, is there anything interesting in the areas of, let's say, like the energy sector, or maybe like specialized solutions for the different regions in Armenia that maybe larger enterprises ignore because the market's not big enough?
I don't right now remember any stakeholder that is connected to energy sector, but there are a lot of very interesting starting like idea stage startups that are working. For example, in tech industry, there are a few very interesting cases from tech industry that we see that has a very, big potential to scale. For example, we can talk about SafeU. If you know, SafeU is an application that is right now doing amazing job also outside Armenia, and they have got a lot of international awards as well. And these type of ventures that we are looking at as our potential investees.
When you compare our ecosystem to bigger, more developed ones, what impact do you see social enterprises having in those countries? Because I think one criticism that is sometimes levied towards this type of work is that it's often only successful in sort of niche and smaller areas, but making it scalable as for solutions is harder. How do you think about that?
Actually, there are very different levels social enterprises. It's not always very small, because there was one...
Like SafeU is a great example of something that's easily scalable.
Yes. It's easily scalable, and also it is right now in a very good scaling process. But if we are talking about non-Armenian social enterprises, then in India there was microfinance institution that was a social enterprise, and their portfolio is around like more than $1 billion, dollars. It's not Kiva, but also Kiva is another option. But I don't remember the name of this one. But there was a man who once provided, very small money to like 7 or 9 women, saying that you can go and buy equipment for you to produce something, and if you can sell anything, just bring those money back. And they brought back with some extra, payments, and then he provided to more, and then it turned out to be a huge microfinance institution at the end. So this is a very nice and interesting example. A couple of weeks ago, actually, during one of the Impact for Breakfast sessions, we were talking about how in developed countries like France or other EU, Western EU countries, impact investment is already in everything, which means that whenever there is an investment, then there is already a clear vision what will be impact of this investment. It's not always focused only on impact, but every investment and any kind of, business that is starting its, as a startup or already as operating business, they already have very clear vision of what kind of impact they bring, and it can be connected to like environment, it can be connected to their community development in those countries, etc. But in emerging markets like Armenia, it's something new and it's quite challenging. But we also see as a future that in every business operations, the impact will be more visible and clear.
Yeah. How can people get involved? Both social enterprises or maybe people that want to join the fund?
First of all, we have a website which is for the fund only. It's viafund.net. So we have the application there, which will be open soon. It's not yet available, but they can see the button there. Also for investors who are interested, we have the full information on the website, just like a pitch deck. And also for more activities from Impact Hub. So anyone can look at the yerevan.impacthub.net website or our social media pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, even TikTok.
Are there any requirements that people need to meet before becoming a part of the fund?
For the fund, yes, but it's all very clear, defined on the website, because as I said, we are working with mostly those social enterprises who are ready to scale, which means that at least they need to have 1 or 2 years of their operations in place, and they need to have at least non-negative cash flow, and they need to have a very interesting plan for their scaling.
Right.
We are also helping them with our acceleration program, and those who are seeking any support here, so they can apply for our acceleration program, which is called Axel, and they can, based on their needs, they will get a lot of trainings, workshops, mentorship, and even coaching from Impact Hub.
So through Axel, you guys are sort of incubating them and
accelerating them, which means that they are coming already with their, problems and needs that are coming from their operations, and they see that for scaling, they need to improve their, marketing, it can be finance, it can be exporting, literacy, etc. Then we, based on their needs, we create work plan for them, and they work from 4 to 5 months, and after that they can apply to the VIA fund with a better pitch deck, maybe or scaling plan.
Before we wrap up, I want to come back to Impact Hub for a minute.
Yeah.
So Impact Hub, the first one in Armenia was in Yerevan, and you guys opened one in Goris last year, which I visited and worked from for a couple of days.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think I was the first day pass buyer.
Wow.
At the Impact Hub Goris, yeah. And I think I recently read that you guys are opening up one in Gyumri, or have plans to in the coming future. What's the plans to expand Impact Hub across Armenia?
Yeah, actually, we realized that being in Yerevan, we are mostly focused on the ventures in Yerevan, but also overall culture of, co-working and being in a community, etc., was developing mostly in Yerevan. And the first one, with the support of EU and also AGBA Federation, we already opened in Sunik. And what is different from Impact Hub Yerevan, that is regional Impact Hub. So Impact Hubs, with their names, they are limited also regionally. For example, Impact Hub Yerevan is operating within the limits of Yerevan. And Impact Hub Sunik in Goris, which is not only for Goris city, but it's working for the overall region. Yeah. And our staff in Impact Hub Sunik, they always do different visits to different cities to also provide information to other stakeholders in Kapan, in Mehri, in Sisyan, not only in Goris. And yes, our main goal was to provide this infrastructure kind of in Sunik, and also build a community there. And we understand that Sunik is not yet ready to fully use this space from our business perspective. And we are mostly focused on programs there. We are doing right now women entrepreneurship project there. We did a very interesting small incubation project with EU last year, and we are continuing our programs there right now. And in Gyumri, we also realized that overall a startup ecosystem in Gyumri is quite ready for a co-working space and also for having a community-based organization there. And now we are working on the building and it will be open hopefully sometime in June.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When I first moved to Armenia, I lived in Gyumri and I was working remotely, and the biggest thing that was missing was a co-working space. And now I think there's already, Impact Hub will be a great addition to that ecosystem.
Yeah.
But I think there's one or two other ones that have already opened up as well. So it's great to see the sort of that culture expanding past Yerevan.
Yeah, and actually it's always very important not to be the only player in the sector, because it's really very difficult and very challenging to be the only one and try to, advance or improve the sector. Always you need partners and you need even competitors to do that more
you said
efficiently.
June.
I said June, yes.
I'll be there.
We'll be very happy to host you.
Gevorg, where do you hope to see the general social enterprise ecosystem in 5 years in Armenia?
I hope to see that, because right now we can count around 150 social enterprises in Armenia. And
how many of those are in Yerevan?
Oh, nice question.
Percentage-wise, roughly.
It will be just my own subjective opinion maybe, but I think around 40% of it or even 50 would be in Yerevan. But
that's great.
Yeah,
more than half are outside of Yerevan?
Yes, just because it is much more important to address the social issues out of Yerevan. And many social enterprises, they are community-based. I mean, they work for the development of their communities. That is why they should be also outside Yerevan. Right. And I hope that in 5 years' time, I can say that we have around 5,000 social enterprises in Armenia.
That would be fantastic. This was a really new topic for me, and I learned a lot. Thank you. What was something I should have asked you that I don't know about?
Maybe I didn't talk about circular economy, but that's a completely different topic.
Can you briefly introduce it to us?
Yes. We are right now starting to incorporate circular economy principles into the Armenian business environment, doing it working with the Impact Hub Global. And there is a toolkit that Impact Hub Amsterdam is using, and we are going to translate this kind of methodology and toolkit and adopt it into Armenian reality. And next year, and so in 2024 and 2025, we will be working with startups, operating businesses and business support organizations to provide them this methodology and also to help them financially and non-financially to implement this within their resident businesses, or if it's businesses, then how to incorporate this into their production technology or service provision technology.
Okay, we'll have to have you back on in the future to talk about that.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining us, Gevorg.
Thank you as well.